Have you ever wondered what life is like beyond the bedside? Well, I recently left Bedside Nursing to become a Clinical Informatics Analyst and could not be happier with my decision to leave Bedside Nursing behind. On this inaugural episode of the Enlightened RN podcast, I'm going to share the story of why it is that I made the switch, how I made the switch, and also share some thoughts on how others who want to leave Bedside Nursing can do so. The number one reason why I decided to make the switch was because I was starting to feel extremely burnt out and my mental health was starting to take a hit. Like many of you who had to work through the COVID-19 pandemic, there were some really significant repercussions of working the extra shifts and covering for people who were sick and many of us catching COVID ourselves. And when that finally happened to me in February of 2022, that was a bit of a breaking point for me. The second reason why I decided to leave Bedside Nursing is because of the lack of work-life balance that comes with doing shift work. I mean, think about it. The reason why they pay those premiums is because while everybody else is enjoying life, you're at work on the evening shift or on night shifts or on the weekend. I would much rather have the opportunity to spend my time doing what is truly going to be enriching my life as opposed to making money. Now, don't get me wrong. Nursing is something that I am still extremely passionate about, but that passion was really starting to die down. And that's the third reason why I decided to step away from Bedside Nursing. I intend to, in some capacity or another, continue working as a nurse until hopefully, I'm able to retire early from the profession. And I didn't want nursing to become something that I dreaded. Child and adolescent mental health is an extremely rewarding field to work in. But at a certain point, you realize that you start to see the same kids over and over coming in with the exact same issues because while you may have done a lot of work with the kid while they were there, they go back to the same environment. And the parents have no interest in changing. And so the cycle continues to repeat itself. And it makes you wonder, what are we doing all of this work for if they're only going to come back 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks from now? Eventually, I realized that what I wanted more than anything in both my professional and personal life was options. I wanted to have the option of picking up on the front line if I wanted to. I wanted to have the option to take a break from picking up on the units if I desired, without having a significant impact on my income. So how is it that I ended up making the switch from bedside mental health nurse to clinical informatics analyst? Well, it's very interesting how the universe, or with my beliefs, God, has a way of bringing opportunities to you when you are ready for them. It was less than 1 week after I made that decision that it was time to step away from bedside nursing that a new opportunity that ultimately charted a completely new career path for me opened up. The organization that I work in was in the midst of rolling out a new electronic healthcare record that I'm sure some of you are familiar with. It's called Epic. And the leadership of the child and adolescent mental health portfolio in the zone where I worked was looking to hire 2 individuals to lead the rollout of this new electronic healthcare record within the child and adolescent portfolio. There's a saying that I've always been a huge fan of, and it's that success comes when opportunity and preparedness meet. Back in 2019, the manager that I was working with at that time asked me if I wanted to be a super user for this new electronic healthcare record that was coming to our organization. I had no idea what it meant to be a super user, but what I did know is that it was a leadership opportunity and that there was a reason why my manager was coming to me specifically to ask this. And so I definitely wanted to take advantage of that. And I, of course, said yes. One of the things you'll hear in this story is that anytime an opportunity came up, I took advantage of it. That's a good tip. Anyways, the team that was leading the implementation of this new electronic health record within the organization put on a demo to show people what the system was capable of. And I was blown away. At the time, we were using Sunrise Clinical Manager. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with that EMR, but anybody who has moved from SCM to Epic knows that it's like night and day. SCM was good for capturing notes and filling out flow sheets, and that was it. Whereas Epic has almost unlimited potential in terms of what it is capable of doing. And so I was legitimately excited about the move to this electronic health record when I saw what it was capable of doing. So I started telling people about it, especially my close colleagues. I started letting them know that, hey, you guys also need to get in on being super users because I'm telling you, what it is that we're going to be capable of doing is really going to set us apart. And I'm glad that they listened. So let me get back to the story of how I ended up in this new position that shifted the trajectory of my career. Now, I looked at the job description and I was like, man, because of the experience I had as a super user, I knew that there weren't going to be many people that worked within that portfolio who had similar experience. And so one day, the program manager was visiting our hospital, and I just walked right into her office and asked her more about the position and made it very clear that I was going to be applying and that I was looking forward to hearing back from her when she was actually going to be setting up interviews. Now, I know a lot of people probably would think that a move like that is a little bit too bold and would think that you risk offending the person who's ultimately going to decide whether or not you get this job. But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to opportunities and stepping into new roles that have the potential to be career changing, it's very true that fortune favors the bold. Because ultimately speaking, the thing you want to do more than anything in an interview process is make yourself stand out. And it's for that reason that I had absolutely no fear in marching right into the program manager's office and letting her know that I was expecting to get an interview from her. So to recap how I made the switch, number one, I took advantage of opportunities to step into leadership roles. Number two, I was extremely confident when I communicated what it was that I was wanting to achieve in terms of career movement. And number three, I ensured that when those opportunities came to interview for those positions, I was ready. Far too many people that I know kind of wing it when it comes to interview preparation. Because I prepared well, it was a foregone conclusion that I was going to experience success. As cocky as this may sound, I wasn't surprised when they called and offered me the job. And that job really opened up all sorts of doors for me that I honestly could have never imagined at that time. The fourth and final thing that was absolutely critical to how I ended up making the switch is that I built a lot of connections, especially with people who were in a position to make decisions about my career's future. The position that I got was intended to only be about a year and 4 months. Right from the jump, I decided that I wanted this position to become a permanent thing. But it wasn't originally me who had that thought. One of the people who was working with the implementation team, who had been in this position for a long time and had done an excellent job, she was the one who actually planted that seed in me. Now, I know I mentioned earlier that I left bedside nursing behind, but that's not totally accurate. While it is true that I resigned from my full-time inpatient mental health nurse position, it's also true that I was able to leverage my connection to ensure that I was able to continue picking up on the unit where I previously worked. Having the freedom and flexibility to pick up when I want to and having it as an option rather than what I'm doing every single day has made all the difference and has made me appreciate working on the front line a whole lot more. But what I really want to stress here is that having the option is the real flex. We've all heard it said that it's not what you know, but rather who you know. And when it comes to politics and careers and interviews, this could not be more true. And so I strongly encourage anybody who wants to make moves in the future, who's looking for other opportunities, who wants to step into leadership type roles, to really spend the time to build connections with the people who make decisions. You will not regret it. I guarantee you. It's something that will open doors, as I referenced earlier, that you did not even know could be open. Heck, it'll open doors you didn't even know existed. My next piece of advice for anyone who wants to leave bedside nursing is to understand that there are so many different options out there. Now, for me, I didn't decide that I wanted to become a nurse until 12th grade. But for those of you who knew you wanted to be nurses from the get-go, I think a lot of you probably envisioned doing bedside nursing, med surg, or probably emergency ICU or OR. But the beauty of working as a nurse in the 21st century is that there are virtually limitless options in terms of where you can work. In addition to nursing, health, or clinical informatics, nurses these days are working as aesthetic nurses. They are working in med sales or working for pharmaceutical companies. There's actually so many different ways that you can leverage your knowledge, experience, and wisdom as a nurse to create a significant amount of income. So do a little bit of research and understand just how free you actually are in terms of where it is that you could potentially take your nursing degree. Try to find somebody to shadow who works in that area to see if it's something that you're actually going to enjoy. Fortunately, we live in a new millennia where it's super easy to access websites like LinkedIn and to find people who are working in the exact position that you're considering. And they'll be more than happy to show you what it is that they do, because 9 times out of 10, people who are passionate about the work that they do each and every day are more than willing to talk about it and are very excited to share what it is that they love about what they do with others. Lastly, take the time to be very clear about why it is that you want to leave bedside nursing. The reason why this is so important is that if you don't take the time to do that on the front end, you may jump into something else that ultimately has some of the same issues, limitations, or hangups that you had about your previous position. And don't just think about it. Take the time to actually write down why it is that you want to leave bedside nursing and what it is that you want to leave to. A dull pen is much more powerful than a sharp mind. And there's something powerful about taking what it is that you desire in your mind and your heart and putting it down on paper. It's almost like a declaration to yourself that at this time, on this day, in this moment, this is what I believed. And you can go back later on and verify whether or not you still believe what you believe, if you still desire what you desired in that moment. I've known a lot of people who have left bedside nursing to other positions that they thought were going to be better and ultimately came back. I know that for some of you watching, the reason why you want to leave bedside nursing has absolutely nothing to do with the patients, the workload, the short staffing, or even everything that happened with this global pandemic. For some of you, you want to leave bedside nursing because of your colleagues, because of nursing bullies. If that's you and you're considering moving out of the profession even because of that, I want you to watch this video that's on your screen now, because it'll walk through exactly how you can permanently deal with nursing bullies. Thanks for tuning into episode 1 of the Enlightened RN podcast. If this video added value to you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, because I've got tons more tasty treats coming your way.